I met a gypsy.
Another little 2022 topic I wanted to get your thoughts on. Why the fuck is everyone crashing?
Like, what do you mean?
Everyone's crashing.
Like, who's crashing?
Everyone. Literally everyone. I mean, Eli's not crashing, but like everyone is having these crashes. Like, dude, so the other day, Dean posted, I can't remember the round, but he posted going through the
Dean's
whoops.
had some big ones this year.
Dude, he was going through the whoops. Textbook. There was no problem there. Bike, fucking sideways. Cartwheels. There's so many crashes that have happened this year where I'm just like, like, why, man? Like that, especially Dean's. Like when Dean crashed in the whoops, he shouldn't have crashed there. There's nothing he did wrong as a rider that would make him crash. And then that really made me, like, I guess worried in a way, because it's like, man, you can be doing everything right in 2022, it seems like, and then just have an absolute massive one. And I mean, even like you losing the front at Detroit, I think it was, and like you had that slap down. It's just like, is there something going on to where like the track's being built differently? Maybe the dirt's different like than years past, because I don't remember seeing a year where there's been this many crashes from the best dudes, like not lappers, not dudes in the LCQs, like the best dudes are fucking cartwheeling.
I think the whoops this year in 2022 are bigger than they've ever been.
Really?
And not only are they bigger, they're holding up. Like usually they break down in their jumpers, but like the whoops this year are probably some of the gnarliest whoops I've seen in many years. And then sometimes like I think that we're pushing ourselves to the limits so much, you know, that even the littlest thing, but there's been a lot of shit go down this year. There really has. You know, I mean, dude, I've actually had some decent crashes. Like Phoenix, I jumped off the track into the tough blocks, you know, like we're just pushing the limit. And it's tough. And I don't think that I was thinking about this because like when I started racing professionally, I would go to the races and I'd be like, dude, the transitions are so steep and they just like, they don't flow. But like now I'm like, if those transitions flowed on a 450, you're just jumping the whole section. Yeah, and if there was a mistake jumping the whole section, you're dead, you know? So, like, now I'm like, pro, keep transitions shitty, make us, like, fucking go slower and, like, think about shit a little bit more, you know? And that's one thing, like, I think I'm like, dude, if some of these transitions were, like, smooth and shit like that, we'd be fucking jumping 80 feet out of a corner, you know? So, it's tough to figure out how to make it safer, but I mean, dude, we're just pushing it so hard, you know? I mean, nowadays, a quad, that's just like, that's part of the program. That's just what you got to do. If someone hits it, all right, but how do they hit it? They hit like, what? 76.3% throttle. All right, I'll try and mimic that. Hopefully I don't OJ it or case it, you know? And it's just the window of error is getting smaller because of how big everything's going. And then not only are you doing the jumps and have to hit the jumps big enough, dude, these tracks break down and they're rutted. Like last weekend, I think we did 28 laps at Indy. If you looked at the triple the last lap, oh, it was insane. And I don't know how to keep up with that. The stadiums are too small now. They really are, which is crazy. And I think in the two-stroke days...
No, sorry, keep going.
Go for it.
No, you go.
I was gonna say I think in the two-stroke days that it wasn't such a big thing because I don't think that the two-strokes like had that much torque, so the track didn't get broken down as much. And 450s just have thrown a curveball since they came, you know, since 05 or whatever, whenever they started 04. I think they've thrown a curveball at the tracks. They really have, because they just tear those tracks apart. We'd be hitting concrete and plywood every weekend.
Do you think that the 450s are just too fast now? Like it's just too much bike for those stadiums?
I think the 450s have gotten a lot safer. I think that at one point in early 450 era, I think that they were almost too fast and the frames weren't ready, or like just like the suspension and everything. I think it was so new and people were so used to riding a 2-stroke and holding it wide open that now in the era we're in, I think a lot of us grew up on 4-strokes and stuff like that we kind of understand it a little bit more. And I don't think so. I just think that it's just the sport progressed, and I think that the tracks are too small. I don't think the 450s are too fast or anything, but it's just the track needs to be bigger and it needs to progress, but you can't rebuild stadiums just for Supercross, you know?
Yeah.
So like,
true.
I think that they did with the time thing, they did it so that they didn't have to worry about, like, we haven't seen any walls or anything recently, because I think those used to be built to slow the track down when you used to do like 20 laps, but I think it's I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't think anyone knows the answer to.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's just got gnarly, and I mean, A3 to me was one of the gnarliest Supercross races I've ever watched, because I was looking at you going through those whoops. I think there was maybe like a 5-lap period, probably from lap like 5 to 10 in that main event, where you went in there and it was like you were just fucking rolling the dice, and then Eli was like,
yes,
rolling the dice, and then there was a point where it lasted like 5 laps and you looked like you were gonna fucking die for 5 laps in a row, and then it looked like Eli was gonna die for about 4 laps in a row, and then Eli finally said, nah man, I'll get second tonight, you win tonight, because that's it. Like, I just ain't doing this shit anymore. And I just that was one of the races where I just was kind of like flabbergasted, and like my respect, I guess, like the obvious level that the sport has reached was on display that night with you two guys. And it was just like your commitment to go through those whoops for that main event, to break down Eli, to then get that win. That to me encapsulated that. And when, to change gears a little bit, but like to see Roxon pull out of the series, I'm like, dude, A3. Look at A3. That's what you have to do to win. Kenny got out front at Anaheim 1, kind of rode his own race, Chase crashed, track wasn't super gnarly, and he got the win. On a night like A3, I don't know that the Ken Roxon that exists as a person is willing to do what Jason Anderson did at A3 through those whoops. You know, Eli Tomac wasn't willing to do what Jason Anderson was willing to do. So it's like, to see, it almost even looks to me like it's gotten so gnarly that you're seeing a guy like Ken Roxon be like, nah, I'm not prepared to fucking do this anymore.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it's commitment. It really is, because every time I went into those whoops, like it was nerve-wracking, because I got to the point at the end, like I was like still like, just, you don't try and hit him fast, you just try and hit him. It's like survival. Yeah. And I knew Eli was hitting him good in the beginning, and then once it got towards the end, I made a mistake one time, but he also made a mistake like the same lap. And dude, those things ate people up. Look at the 250 main. Look at Hunter. The crazy part is their last lap was our first lap. You know, so you got to think, it was eating those 250 guys up. We still had 20 minutes on those same whoops with no prep. So it's ridiculous. But I believe that the whoops weren't that unsafe, but it allowed a very small window of error, you know? Because I think that each rider can get to the end, and if they have a crash, it's going to be like slow, you know? I think whoops, the way they have them this year, is how they should have them every year in Supercross. And I think that Eli's been better than me sometimes and stuff like that. But for me, I'm like I said, like, I want another shot at a championship. And if it takes me being that committed, that's what it takes. And it's tough, because you just got to bring it from within you to do that. I mean, you talk to yourself in your head the whole time you're in those main events, but that is what it is, and that's what it takes, you know. And it's the amount of conversations I have with myself in my head when I'm racing is pretty insane. But that's when you pull it off, it makes it that much cooler.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.